Okay. Let's start closest to me then again. Would you mind telling us who you are and what's, I suppose, brought you here to this moment, Stephen?
My God.
This is like a "this is your life" but in 2 minutes.
Yeah. I think it's very hard to be a carer, and I think we're the most discriminated people in Australia. I had a phone call while I was at work that my ex-wife had 4 strokes, and I was a fly-in, fly-out worker, and I couldn't get home for 3 days because there was no planes. And in between that time, the public trustee had jumped in, took over my ex-wife's care, my daughter's care, and they also tried to grab my son, which they couldn't get. And I was thrown into this carer's situation without any idea about what to do, what was going on. I had all these other people telling me what they were going to do with my family. And what they were going to do was asset strip my family, take every last red cent they had and put them all in homes. And I just said to the first person from the public trustee, "You're going to do that over my dead body." And from there I had the biggest challenge of my life, battling in this system that doesn't represent the carer or their families. All they care about is taking what you've worked for all your life and divvying it up and giving it away to someone else's authority to do what they like with. And I wasn't going to sit by and let my family be wasted away just like that for all the work that my ex-wife and I had worked for. They tried to take the family home away, and they sold the cars, they sold this, they sold that. And they told me how much I was going to get, the family was going to get, or the ex-wife was going to get, because the house was in her name. That's the family home. And they told her that she was going to get $350,000 for a 1,100 square home block in Alexander Heights. And I said to this guy, "Which one of your mates were you going to sell that house to?" Anyhow, obviously I wasn't living in the home, and the home was vacant. My daughter had lived there all her life, my autistic daughter, and they tried to move her out. I wasn't aware of what they were doing because it's all smoke and mirrors, and I was just someone who they didn't want around. So I got right up their nose anyway. And I've had challenges from carer homes that were looking after my wife. They took me to court. They threatened to throw me and my family out of our own family home. And I don't want to harp on too long because the story's huge. But anyway, I've had a fair bit of success, but I've been taken to court by I've been in the SAT 4 times, I think it is. That's just starting to lose count of that. And you all know what it's like when someone comes in and disregards you and doesn't want to listen to you. They think they know better. And they're not working from the basis of what a family is made of. And that's love. And we all have it in our hearts. And that's the basis of your strength. And for me it's been difficult, and I always when it gets too hard, I don't mean to be religious or whatever, but when it gets too hard, I walk outside. When I don't have the answer, I just ask myself, what would Jesus do? And generally I get a good answer. That's all I've got to say for now.
Stephen, thank you. And yeah, just to reiterate, you are caring for multiple members of your family, 3 in fact, so your ex-wife, your son and your daughter. I'll ask you about the challenges around that, how you spread yourself. If there's only one of you, how you manage to do that, how you juggle all of those balls. It must be immensely difficult. I'll just get to the rest of our panellists first. So, Layla, thank you for joining us. You've stepped away from school today to be here?
Actually,
or have you...
No, thankfully no. I've just graduated from year 12.
Oh, there you go. Brilliant.
Yes.
And probably come as no surprise, but Layla is a gun student as well, so I'm sure she's blitzed her exams. But yeah, you are probably one of the younger people in the room today, I dare say.
I believe so.
What brings you here today? How have you found yourself in the role of carer as well as Year 12 student?
Well, I didn't know I was a carer until about a year ago, actually. But I've been caring for my mother since I was about 9 years old. She has been my best friend for the longest time. And being a carer has given me many difficulties, but I wouldn't change it for the world. She was the one who told me I was a carer myself. I cared for her through long nights because she suffers from chronic migraines. She's had them for years after an injury in her back, and she has chronic mental illness too. She's suffered through it her whole life, and I've unfortunately inherited a good few of her illnesses myself. But I wouldn't change anything because in the time that I've cared for her, she has become extremely close to me, and she trusts me and I trust her back. I am now a year 12, yes, and these experiences of staying late up at night have actually given me a lot more than I ever dreamed of. And I sat down with her one night after getting rejected for a job, and someone reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you like to reach out for this position because you said on your job application that you're a young carer?" And I said, "Yeah, my mother told me I was one because I cared for her for a long time." And that's how I got a job at Young Carers, like for a youth advisory group at Carers WA. And that's how I've ended up here. I've enjoyed my time, and whilst it's been difficult, nothing could tell me that I would do it 10 times over.
Amazing. Thank you, Layla. Frank, tell us a little bit about you.
Hi folks, I'm happy to be here, happy to share my experience with you, and yet my caring experience is quite unique in that I believe most of you folk in here have real challenges in your caring role. But I say this, that whilst we're ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things. But we need to be working together. We need to be working together. And the very fact is that, hey, we're on this journey together. If we try to do it alone by ourselves, the challenges came astronomical. But if we work with folk who are prepared to work with us, then the challenges becomes a shared contribution. Yeah? And I must admit that, hey, my caring experience began with my son when he was in primary school. We grew up as a normal family, but when he was in year 7, he had a fatal accident on the playing field. Yes. He had a fatal accident. The headmaster was there and could see it. When they played cricket and they bowled the ball, he made a swing at the ball and the bat slipped out of his hand and connected his friend, who was there just fielding just in front of the WhatsApp, and unfortunately it was fatal, and he never survived. And yet at the same time, his parents said they were so close. His parents, the boy's parents said to my son Earl, it was an accident. It was an accident. But for him, growing up at that stage, he had a guilty conscience and felt that, hey, he caused the death of his best friend. Yes, and you know what? It lasted in his life from year 7 right through to year 43. Mental anguish. And today he's in rehab. He has been in rehab before, but he's already at previous times he'd broken out and said, I need a help here. And he mixed with the wrong friends. But today he said to me, Dad, I feel that I've achieved something, because I now don't believe that I can be a guilty person, because it was an accident. It was an accident, and I can get on with my life. During the time when he was going through that dilemma, he was a young man. He engaged in sport. He engaged in whatever activities he could, you know, but always in the back of his mind, that mental dilemma was, hey, I've killed my best friend. And it's not until now that his recent stay in rehab that it's come to him, yes, they've gone through programs to give him the behavioural change and say that, hey, it was an accident. And now, but he's always said, he's brought up 3 beautiful young ladies, and he said to me, his dad and his mum, I don't want to be a drop-beat dad for my daughters. So, friends, whilst we are ordinary people, we have the capacity in ourselves to rise above, but we can't do it on our own. We need to be able to share with the services that are available. Yes, and I can say this from the bottom of my heart, the services that are available to my son and has brought him to the place where he now feels that he's relieved of that dilemma is available to all. Let's take a grip of what services that are available. Yes, and but at the same time, those who are supporting our folk who are in this situation must show love and compassion towards the one that we're supporting. And my son said to me, Dad, I've been in here now 3 months. I'd like to stay an extra time with the group, because they've shown me the way that I need to go. I heard what I said before, what do we have to do to change the life? We can't change the life of anybody, but we can support them for them changing their own lives. And that's why I say most determinedly, we are ordinary people, and ordinary people can achieve extraordinary results. I work with Sharon Kennywood. We're on the journey together. Okay, let's remember that. We're on the journey together. And I have a second son who has a mental health problem as well. But by talking with him, by showing him love and compassion, he's gradually getting over his dilemma. So I say to you today, carers and those who are in the support services, yes, we can do it together. The journey can be challenging, but we can do it together. Ordinary people can achieve extraordinary results. Thank you.
Well said, Frank, and I sincerely hope for a good outcome with this stint in rehab for your son.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Claire, I suppose your situation has some similarities to Layla's, doesn't it? You found yourself in the role of carer at a pretty young age and have again found yourself in that role in a slightly different situation throughout your life as well. Can you give us a little snapshot of where your carer journey started and how it's transformed over the years?
So my carer journey started when my mother had my youngest brother. I was 5, 6 years old, and when he was born, she had postnatal depression. In those days, you were considered mad. She was institutionalised, my brother was taken away, and suddenly, as the oldest sibling, I found myself looking after my brother and my younger brothers and my sister. My father couldn't cope, so he placed us in care. So I lived in an orphanage or a girls' home for 5.5 years. That was my saviour, because I got to go and spend time with other families during holidays. I got to be with other girls, and I got to go and do things that people that were normal were doing, instead of being on a market garden isolated. So I found that I was really enjoying my life, and then my father decided that he was going to put his family back together. So in 1970, I got on a train with 5 strangers, my mother and my sister and 3 brothers. And we got here in Perth, and my father, we went and lived in Wundowie, and I found myself in the situation where my mother still needed to be cared for. I was going to school, I was coming home, but I still had to be the major carer of the younger ones. Skip forward, my mother eventually passed away. My father also passed away quite young, so we were left on our own. And I became a normal person, I would consider. I married the first time, divorced, married a second time, and I had a son. When my son was 2, my husband had a heart attack. He was 42, and I suddenly found myself caring again. I kept doing what I did. I went back to work full-time, and roll on a few years later, his mother had breast cancer. She was diagnosed with breast cancer when just before my son was born, and she needed to be taken care of, and so did her partner. So I found myself in a caring role again. I'm not going to go on and tell you how many times this has happened. At the moment, I am also caring for my stepmother-in-law. My father-in-law passed away 5 months ago, and he was her major carer, and so now I have stepped into that role. I'm not with her 24/7, but you all know that we're not carers 24/7 sometimes. Sometimes we are the ones that are there and responsible for things that need to get done. And so I find that at least 2 or 3 times a week I am putting aside 4 hours in my day to go and do what I need to do. I didn't know I was a carer, had no idea until 2017 when I met May, who was at an event something like this, because I'd been advocating for mental health from a very early age. And she was listening to some of the things I was saying, and she said, "Do you know you're a carer?" And I went, "What do you mean?" So she explained, and I said, "No, I'm Italian." This is why.
Can I ask, being told that you are a carer, what did that do to you? How did it change you?
Oh, you have no idea the amount of satisfaction I have of being part of this community. And the people that know me and have been, talking to me over the years, since coming to Carers WA, I've participated in the Back to Work program where I found that I had accumulated so many soft skills that were really, great skills to have. I realised that I was quite capable of doing a lot of things that I didn't think I was capable of doing before. To the point where, with that, I was asked if I went and volunteered in Mirrabooka, and I actually ran an education hub for Sudbury Community House until they closed it down. So that's one. I also did a back to education and employment program with them where I've just finished my Cert 4 in training and assessment. So for me, coming to Carers WA, going through the process and finding myself up here has been a journey and a half, but for me, it is my tribe. Thank you.
I'll come straight back to you, Clara, because someone has specified they wanted to direct a question to you, but I think it's probably one I can throw across the group, and it kind of merges with another as well. It sort of goes to how do you look after yourselves, basically. So the question is, Clara, how do you find time to prioritise your own self-care? Any tips? The other question I'm merging in there was simply, how do you avoid burnout?
Right.
What you mentioned, you take 4 hours out of every day? Yeah?
3 days a week.
3 days a week. Just for you. Is that your main avenue for self-care?
That is. I burnt out at 26. I had a major breakdown. I couldn't walk out the front door to go to work. I was a school teacher. So that was my call. From that time on, I learnt skills and tools and strategies that I have used, especially journaling as my main tool. But I walk on the beach. I have my own business, which I call the Welcome Philosophy, and I work with women who are in financial insecurity and financial abuse, one-on-one, and I walk with them. We spend time in nature. I do a lot for my own self-care in those 4 hours, especially reading, working on my own. I'm a lifelong learner. Go out and find something new all the time.
Yep, very good. Thank you. What about you, Frank? How do you look after you? What's your tip?
Okay, Tim, in reference to working with our people in our community, I side with Marion when she says that, hey, our people need educating. And traditionally speaking, we looked after our own. Yes, we looked after our own, and we got the help of the community. But now we're in a different lifestyle. We need to be educated with what services are available out there so that we can work together. There are challenges in life, challenges far greater than we ourselves can overcome. So in order for us to meet those challenges, it's best that we work in this journey together. Work together. One would be surprised of the resilience that our people have in their own lives. We need to be able to give them the opportunity to show their resilience in living a normal life. If we don't do that and we do everything for them, where will they be? They'd be still in the area of being a challenge to us. So we need to work together, both carers and those who we are caring with, caring for, and also the services that are provided for us. I believe that, hey, this journey in life, we're just beginning, yes, but we need to be accepted, like Sharon said, we need to walk together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. Layla, what about you? You've got the pressures of Year 12. I don't want to keep reminding you of that, but what do you do to just to take 5, just to, I suppose, clear your head, whatever you do? How do you do that?
I'm still currently learning that, but I initially burnt out a lot when I was 11 and 12, and I had a lot of issues with managing my time. But nowadays what I do is I mainly sleep a lot. I lost a lot of sleep when I was younger, and that was something that that's what a kid needs to grow. And it's not the same way where you can train and then gain calluses on your hand and get used to it. Sleep is something you need as a child. And so that's what I've always tried to maintain, even with a busy day, getting those 8 hours up to 10 hours for me personally. That's what I need to get through my day. And even though if you don't get enough, a 30-minute nap does wonders.
Little nana nap. Oh, it's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Stephen, I'm worried for you. You've got 3 people who rely on your ability to be their primary carer. Like, what do you do to, just to stay on top of it and not let yourself burn out?
That's a very difficult question. I don't really have any time for myself. And I don't really care. I just need a bit of help. And I'm sure that everybody in this room feels they just need a bit more help.
What sort of help do you need?
Well, fortunately for me, I got in touch with Carers WA, and a lot of my stuff was, I wasn't quite aware of the caring role. I thought I had that under control. It's not under control, but it's just, it's happening all the time, and it changes all the time. If it wasn't for Carers WA, they saved my family home. They helped me along my journey with that, and I'm quite elated that I can walk my walk and my experience now, knowing that someone has my back. If I'd had to do it on my own, I don't know where I would have ended up. Mm. You talk about crashing and burning. Well, you need help. And there should be a lot more help. And a lot of people say we can't afford it, the government can't afford it. Well, they damn well can. If we live in a very rich country, and the country's getting raided by multinationals. Qatar last year made $76 billion in royalties off their gas exports. Australia shipped out more gas than they did last year and got $18 billion in royalties. So where are we? Only the people can stand up and be strong and make these people that leading our organisations, governments and what have you, who are lining their own pockets and lining up themselves to get good jobs outside their elected capacity. We all know what's happened with ScoMo, another very popular premier who's now got beautiful government jobs, nondescript jobs which they're getting highly paid for. They've lined their way, they've been traitors to the Australian people, We need, I'm not talking about Liberal or Labor, they've all done it, a lot of them. They're too scared to stand up and tackle these multinational companies. We need more help. The money is there. We just need some people with balls to stand up and take these people to task.
Need to rearrange some priorities, spending priorities. Yeah. Layla, a question that quite a few people in the audience want me to ask of you. What would you like to see educators and other service providers understand about young carers and how they can better support young carers in their caring role? Can I say, how's your school been with you also having this extra responsibility at home?
I get nothing from my school.
Yeah.
I'll be honest there.
Are they aware of it?
I think 2 people at my school are, in terms of teachers. But no, I get nothing. And in terms of educators, that's something I'm currently working on, is I want, like, not teachers to be, like, bending down at the knees and just like, oh, praise thee, you shall get everything you want. It's just the understanding of that these kids are spending like nights working for their, like, whoever they're caring for, or they may have to take a day off to take care of who they're caring for. But people in educating systems don't seem to understand that too clearly right now, at least in my school. That's how it's been so far. I know that in universities they have more leniency when it comes to extension programs and even in bursaries. But from my knowledge, I haven't had much support from educators. Yeah.
Well, that's one thing that needs to change, isn't it? Because there are going to be more and more young people who unfortunately find themselves in this role, aren't they? I mean, have you got other peers in your year at school who are also carers? Do you feel like you're, in a sense, alone in your school community?
It's not really a known thing. I know one other person who is, and we're close friends.
Yeah.
But I remember a statistic that there's at least 1 out of 10 people, like students, who are young carers.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, my school is about maybe 3,000 people. That's
wow.
300 people in my school who are carers, from ranging years 7 to 12. That's an insane statistic in my school alone. Yeah,
yeah. What supports have you been able to access through Carers WA as a young carer?
Honestly, in my experience, I haven't taken many of them purely because my situation isn't as dire as others, but I've taken advantage of almost the job that I have, because I want my experience to not like be just using the resources. I want to make the resources that other people can use. That's my goal.
Yeah. Okay. A question as well, I'm not sure who's best placed to answer this, but it's an interesting one. As a parent and carer to my autistic ADHD PDA 9-year-old son, my biggest challenges come from those within my own circle. How have any of you managed these internal challenges that can label you as a bad parent? It's a curly one, isn't it? But I know where this person is coming from. Yeah.
I have an autistic daughter, and when she gets up in the morning, she wakes up, as autistic people do, full of energy, after she's kept me awake all night. And she comes out for breakfast and she just says, "I've come to annoy."
And she does a great job of it.
And she's a professional at coming to annoy. You know, they're born with this thing in them that, you know, it's just, there's just this energy there that they have. And they outsmart us all the time, you know. We think we're clever as grown-ups, but we're not. They're much cleverer than we are. And they're always one step ahead of us. I mean, I've got an autistic daughter that wants to jump out the car on the freeway going along at 100 kilometres. And as far as people that want to belittle you, and there's a lot of that in this industry, a heck of a lot. Just about everybody that walks through your front door looks around and goes, "Huh, wonder what's the challenge here?" They have no idea that you've spent maybe 20 hours awake that night. And on the full moon, well, with 3 people, disabled people, everybody knows who's a carer here, that on the full moon, you're in for a week of no sleep. You know, and it's hard to convince other people who are not aware of that. They don't get it. So anybody that wants to put you and judge you, judgmental towards you.
Have you had to cut a lot of people out of your life because you don't have time for their judgment, or trying to turn them around to educate them about your situation? What do you do?
I don't cut people out of my life. I mean, they're there for a reason. I don't know what reason sometimes. But, you know, hopefully they can learn from something you do by example. And that's the only way you're going to change their mind, is to be exemplary in your care. And that's all you can do. You can't. You don't have time for that bullshit. It's their problem, not yours.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to, isn't it? Frank, you can tell whoever it is trying to contact you, and you give it about 3 minutes. Then we'll be done. Does anyone else want to add to that? Have you found any judgment along the way that has stayed with you for whatever reason?
Tim, can I just add this? Look, my caring situation is very unique. It's not as challenging as a lot of you folk here when you're in your caring role. However, my wife of 52 years needed 24-hour care. And so she went into a nursing facility, and fortunately, I said to myself, look, even though we're coming at the sunset years of life, I'm still going to be with her. So I'm there with her. But there are times when I need to pull the curtain across. Yes, because we need our space. But there are times when, because of the fact that, hey, whilst I'm a permanent resident there, they have managed my risk assessment. I can go out and I can do my community work, and it gives me the freedom of, what shall I say, not being full-time as a carer. She has paid carers, but I do the little things for her. Look, I do the things that they forget about. I just give them, I put an extra blanket on, you know, if she's cold, or if she needs a glass of water, I get a glass of water for her. But one of the joys that I enjoy is that every time I come home from an outing in the community, I bring her some fruit. She likes watermelon. She likes other niceties, and I bring that for her. And we get on greatly. But there are times when we need to have our own space, and I just pull the curtain across. And it helps. It helps. Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
Layla, I'm curious to know, Year 12 wrapping up now. What are your plans, and how do you factor in what is, I'm guessing, going to be an ongoing role as your mum's carer? How do you factor that into your own future plans?
Well, I've got to obviously stay here. That's not a problem for me. I've got an early offer to Curtin University, so I've got no issues there. It's honestly, I think it won't be much of a change apart from the fact that I get to spend more time at home with her. As a person, I've grown, and it's much less stressful than when I was maybe 10, running around the house trying to figure out what medication to use. What is ibuprofen? You know, it's much more easier now, and it's going to be much easier once I'm fully free and into uni.
Yeah. Well, good luck with everything. She's lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Clara, just finally, you've obviously, as you've pointed out, found yourself having to step into that role of carer many times throughout your life. If I can put it this way, you must be a dynamo at being a carer now. How have you developed your own kind of capacity as a carer over the years? You must be a gun.
I only mentioned a few of the caring roles.
Yeah,
by the way. I've always wanted to help people and to be of service to people. And so in doing that, I accumulate. One of my girlfriends says, you've got more certificates and more understanding about what you do than anyone I know. I go and learn and find out more. I completed a Cert 4 in mental health peer work because I wanted to know about trauma-informed care and things like that. So for me, it's that lifelong learning journey. If I don't know anything, I go out and I find out. The other thing is to be in this space with Carers WA, to advocate for them, to be on committees for them, or to jump in and be part of the voice that's heard as a carer is really important, because you learn from each other. The amount of stuff I've accumulated from being in group meetings or on committees, or being part of national projects is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The best resource of all, the community itself. Thank you so much. That's a nice moment, I think, to wrap it up. I'm sure many of you are starting to feel a little bit hungry, so it's almost lunchtime. But please, would you thank our panellists here, Stephen, Layla, Frank and Clara. I suppose it says a lot about all of you that even though you've got these incredible challenges in your life, on a day where you get to step away from those challenges, you're here with us, sharing your experiences here rather than off doing something mind-numbing and boring and frivolous and fun or whatever it is somewhere else. So thank you so much for coming here and sharing your time and your experiences with us. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.